Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. My name is Uche Nnoka and I'm based over in London. And my guest here is Dr. Nii Amu Darko. And we're going to be discussing all things Ghanaian politics. And he has first-class knowledge. So if you have ever wondered about Ghanaian politics or you are a Ghanaian and just want to know a bit more, Dr. Nii is absolutely perfect for this purpose. So Dr. Nii, hello.
Hello, how are you, Uche?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, for those who have never heard of you before, could you please state who you are and where you're based?
Okay, yeah, my name is Nii Amu. Most people call me Nii, and I'm from Ghana, as Uche has told you already, from Accra and from Osu in Accra. At the moment, I'm based in Melbourne, where I work as a physician, mainly in emergency medicine. Before I got here, I worked in South Africa for 5 years, and of course, I trained in Ghana. So I'm a Ghanaian physician working in Australia, Melbourne, at this point in time.
Excellent. Okay, what kind of medicine is it you practice?
Emergency medicine.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say emergency medicine, do you mean like traumas, like people involved in car crashes?
Yeah, emergency medicine. Yeah, I work from the emergency department, so we see all kinds of things: trauma, heart attacks, pneumonias. Everything comes to the emergency department before we either discharge them home, or we admit them to the hospital, or we transfer them to higher super specialist hospitals. So basically, yeah, we see all those kind of stuff at the same place at the same time.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so tell us about how you became interested in politics.
Oh, that's very interesting. You see, first of all, when you say interest in politics, we have to define what politics is. For me, politics is how a society organizes itself for its own development and prosperity. Okay. So for me, politics starts from the way you see your neighbor and how you think your neighbor should prosper. So basically, once we have that definition right, you realize that all of us, actively or passively, we are politicians, because that's how the society organizes itself to develop and to prosper. Now, the society refers to the people, which is what you call the nation, and the organization that they create for themselves for their development and prosperity is what we call the state. And that's why sometimes we hear the word nation state. The nation creates the state for its own development and prosperity. And where these two things happen, the physical space is the country.
Okay.
So now they look similar, but they are different. Now, when you ask what actually how I got interested in politics, you are talking now of organized politics in the sense of partisan politics. The state that we organize for ourselves meant that to have political power means you have to go through a process. And the process is largely through political parties. We have tried this several times in Ghana. We are in our 4th republic now, the longest republic so far. Now, for me, where I began from was from home. My home was quite political. My father was political. The environment was very political. If you understand, if you know Osu very well, Osu is where we have the castle, where we have the presidential palace, and where we have all the ministries. Everything that matters in Ghana in terms of politics is stationed in Osu, which is really the center of the capital. So environmentally, I was influenced very much to look at politics as a way of helping my people. Now, let me say this before I even go further. For me, I have 3 major sources of influence. One, they say charity begins at home. So I'm heavily influenced by my traditions and my culture as a Ghanaian man from Accra, Ghana. And then from home, we went to school. And I went to a Presbyterian school. And so I'm also heavily influenced by the teachings of Jesus Christ and his first apostles.
Okay.
All right. No apologies for that. And then after that, I move on to the larger world. And I'm also influenced by the best practices in everywhere in the world. So whatever I do, everything I do comes from one or two or all of these things fused together. Now, in terms of political ideas, I would say that when you are taught from home to be hardworking and to be fair and to do unto others what you want others to do unto you and to love your neighbor as yourself, then you're on good foundation for a good political life. That's how my politics began. I've never seen myself as an island that I must prosper at the expense of anybody. But I've always seen myself as an influencer, that whatever I know, I should be able to influence people for the good, for their own good, and for good of society. And for me, that's the centerpiece of good politics.
Yes.
Now, as I grew up, I got to know of people who have taken time to do politics and to campaign on various fronts. And some of these people are who actually influenced my thoughts. Steve Biko of South Africa, the founder of the Black Consciousness Movement, and I'll come to him shortly. The other one is Walter Rodney from Guyana. He wrote a book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And one other person was Teto Kwashi, the man who brought cocoa to Ghana in 1876. And of course, the great man himself, Marcus Garvey.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are looking at Ghana, or for that matter, Africa, you got to understand where the problem is. And one person who defined the problem so clearly was Steve Biko. He said that it was he delivered a speech in Natal. They was 25 years old, 1971. Some African cultural concepts in his book, I Read What I Like, and he said something to the effect that the two cultures that met and fused were the African culture and the Anglo-Boer culture. Whereas the African culture was unsophisticated and simple, the Anglo-Boer culture had all the trappings of colonialist culture and fully equipped for conquest. Where they could, they conquered by persuasion. And where they couldn't, they freely used arms to their advantage. And according to Steve, so the Anglo-Boer culture dominated in almost all facets of the contact. And for him, that's where the African began to lose a grip on himself and his environment. Now, this is a young man, 25-year-old boy, who was in medical school, who was trying to tell people that the problem of Africa is not a matter of color, but a matter of mindset. That when we met the Europeans, our mindset was unsophisticated and simple. And in the clash, they overcame us. So now colonialism was a matter of cultural domination. Now, when he said that, the white people said, no, this man is too dangerous. So he believed that the African problem was not political. The African problem was consciousness, mindset. So he refused to join ANC and he refused to join PAC. And he formed his own BCM, Black Consciousness Movement, because unless you change the mindset, nothing is going to change. You can give all the political power to these people, but with that mindset, they will give the power back to those who give it to them. They have to have that conquest. But you see, it was also a generational thinking, because there was this guy, Walter Rodney, who said that it is the responsibility of every African to understand how the system works in order to overthrow it. We have to understand how the system works in order to overthrow it. Then he went on to say that in a situation where society A relinquishes all its power to society B, that system itself, or that scenario itself, is because of underdevelopment. Now, let me say it again.
When you say underdevelopment, you talk about underdeveloped mind, undeveloped consciousness. When you say that, what does it mean?
Okay. Now, Walter Roddy was talking from the point of power.
Okay.
He was talking from the point of power, that if you see that society A has relinquished all its power to society B, then that in itself is a form of underdevelopment. That's how I put it. In other words, we are not underdeveloped because of colonization, but we're actually colonized because we're underdeveloped. Yeah, okay, let me say, you see, we are not underdeveloped now because we are colonized. But we were colonized because at the time of the contact with Europe, we were the less developed. And everywhere in this world, when two cultures clash, the less developed is dominated. We shouldn't make it a big issue. We are here that, and development could be different forms. It could be military, it could be economic, it could be this, it could be that. But when it comes to the power to dominate somebody, there's always an element of military force.
Yeah.
And the one who is not able to defend himself militarily will be conquered.
That's true.
So that itself is a form of underdevelopment. It's not a matter of race. It's not a matter of religion. It's not a matter of anything. Because as we know, Putin just moved to Crimea and took over Crimea. The same people, the same language. But he had the power to do it. Not too long ago, Saddam Hussein moved into Kuwait and took back Kuwait. The same people, the same language, the same religion. But he had the power. Others from other places had to come in to push him back.
Yeah.
So now, when two people come together, when two cultures clash, the one that is overwhelmingly powerful will dominate. Unless we understand that. We've blamed Christianity for so many things. Now the Chinese are coming in. They are not Christians. They are not Christians. They are taking over. Now we have 700,000 strong Chinese in Ghana. Wow. Officially, it's almost close to 1 million. But they are not Christians. They are taking over. Because we have not understood the system of domination. This racism. No. It's not about that. It's about mindset. It's about power. Unless we know that these are the fulcrum of domination, will forever be dominated. It comes in different ways. Yeah, in the 7th century or in the 7th century, 8th century, Arabs moved to North Africa and they conquered the whole place. Today, they've made the place their home, but they are occupiers. There was no Arab there before 641 AD. We haven't still learned. So now, for me, coming into politics, like I say, is to try and help develop a system that will help the people to be prosperous.
Okay.
You see, development itself, we struggle to understand it. We have had African Development Bank for how many decades? Not one single country has developed. So what is the bank doing? But development is actually man's capacity to make and use tools to overcome his environment and earn a living from it.
Okay.
It is man's capacity.
So with everything that you've said, what would you diagnose Ghana's current condition?
Ghana's current condition,
is it also a case of underdevelopment?
Yeah, Ghana's current condition, like I've said before, we haven't been able to shape a system that will allow us to develop and be prosperous. Like I said, that's politics, as far as I'm concerned. It's a communal action. It's a societal action for its own development and prosperity. We haven't done that because the constitution, which is supposed to help us do that, is flawed. So Ghana's fundamental problem is constitutional paralysis.
Okay.
And from that,
sorry, go ahead. Finish.
And from that, everything springs. And you have to understand that if the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter what you build on it, it will collapse.
Okay. So what does that say about the leadership then? Why do you feel the leadership is the way it is? Because like you would think that the people at the top are the ones who have the correct mindset, whose mindset has changed, have got into a position where they're able to try and do something for the good of the country. That not just Ghana, I'm talking about any country in Africa. We see the same kind of thing. Why do you think that the people at the top are not doing what it is they were elected to do? What's the problem there?
Because you see, way back, I'll go back to Steve Biko.
Mm-hmm.
As a student, he saw the movement. Mandela was jail 64, and his people were jail 64. ANC were there, PAC were there, all fighting for political power. Mm-hmm. But he understood that the problem was not primarily political. How were we able to be overcome? How were they able to overcome us? Mm-hmm. You see, once you understand the problem is not primarily political, you know that the solution is not primarily political. So he decided that he has to bring up a new generation with the absolute correct mindset, not feeling entitled, but feeling that there is a work to do. Mm-hmm. In Africa, everywhere in the world, top 5-10% are the political elite, the business elite, and they actually do very well to look after the rest.
Yeah.
But in Ghana, in Africa, is the opposite. The top elite feel very entitled because they don't even understand the process. The politics is how they self-organize itself for its own development and prosperity. For them, it is about their prosperity. They have gone to school in England, they have gone to school in America, they have gone to school in Australia, so they are entitled to these positions of power and influence and richness. So when they come, and that's the way it looks like when you look at our constitution. The constitution in Ghana basically makes the head of state to be equal to the state. But we don't understand anything. Mm-hmm. When Ouattara said that it's the responsibility of every African, you find this book in his book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. It is the responsibility of every African to understand how the system works. We haven't taken our time to understand the system. We are just doing something because it has to be done. Oh, some will say, have democracy, have this, have that. All right, let's go and do it. And it's the same people that keep on recycling themselves. The same people, and nothing is happening.
Can I ask you a question? Do you feel that for the vision that you have, which we'll get to in a minute, the vision that you have for Ghana, do you think that truly lies within the bosom of the people who are in Ghana right here, right now, or the diasporans? Because I was having this conversation with somebody else about Nigeria, and it seems to be that the ones from the diaspora would be the ones who are best placed to bring about the changes that we would like to see. However, they would not necessarily be able to get into those positions to make those changes because they're almost like scorned as being diasporans. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a very similar scenario. I believe, you see, history has taught us one thing, at least in Ghana, that the diaspora holds the key.
Yeah, okay.
The diaspora holds the key to the transformation of Ghana. There's no two questions about. There's no question about that. The diaspora holds the key. You see, let me tell you something. There was this man called Tete Kwashi. Ghana, as you see it now, the economy of Ghana was built from the diaspora. There was this man called Tete Kwashi who left Ghana in 1870 to Fernando Po, which is now in Equatorial Guinea. He was a blacksmith, and he went there to go and buy coal tar for that time. That was a sealant. Okay, that's what they used as silicon now. And so he went to buy it, but when he got out from his boat in Fernando Po, he saw a big ship that was loading something into the ship, and they asked them that, what is this? Where are they taking it to? You saw a lot of white people there. And they say, oh no, this thing they call it cocoa, they're taking it to Europe. Then he said to us, oh, if the white man will come all the way here to come and take this thing, then this thing must be very, very important. I'm going to follow what this thing is. So Tedukwashi, for a moment, forgot about his quota business and followed the cocoa to the cocoa, where the cocoa farm was. Okay. Then he said, oh, then he said, can I become a laborer here? I want to work in the farm. I want to know about cocoa. This guy was 28 years old then. Then he was employed. Now, he stayed there for 6 years, 1870 to 1876, because at that time, the cocoa, it takes 6 years for cocoa to mature. So he decided to stay there to know how it is planted, how it's, whatever, everything about cocoa for 6 years. And after 6 years, after the harvest, he decided that he was going to go home. Now, how was he going to get the cocoa out of Fernando Po? Right. He had to go and he told the boss that, look, at that time, there was no WhatsApp, there was no telephone, there was nothing. He told the boss that where he came from the coast. There was no farming there. Now he's a farmer. Nobody would believe him. In fact, people thought he had died. 6 years, no letter, no nothing. They thought he had died. He said, I needed evidence that I came to work here. I came to work in this farm, and this is what you produce. So can you give me some of these seeds? I have to tell and show it to them, some of this pot, that this is what I came to do here. Because there was no pictures then, no camera. So they gave him cocoa pods, and then of course he bought his quota as well, and he went to Ghana with that. When he went to Ghana, he had to go and tell his story that he's now a farmer and this is what he's going to do. But these cocoa beans will bring wealth to him and the family and the whole country. One man from the diaspora. So now, for us, the diaspora now, it is our time and our turn to look at the new cocoa. What do we find here that we can take back home to be like another Tedukwashi?
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's me. That's my battle cry. Tedukwashi, Tedukwashi went to Fernando Po, not to London, not to Washington, not to Berlin, poor another African country, but even there, he saw wealth in seeds. And
so I just want to cut you. Just I want to make sure we can get into what you're standing for. Yeah. So did these things play a part in you creating the African reform movement in 2008?
Yes. Okay. Now, the reason why it's African reform movement, or why I call it African reform movement, was that I believe it's the logical conclusion of Biko's idea of Black consciousness movement. You see, Africa has three meanings: A, B, C. A is the area, the land itself. Okay. B is the blood or the culture, or the blood or the race. Okay. So it defines, the B defines us, we are Black people. Okay. And C is the culture or the mindset. We can't change A, we can't change B, but we can change C. The culture, the mindset. You see, when you understand that everything that we do comes from our consciousness, you know that if you are going to change it, it has to be from the consciousness. What's his name? Einstein said something. He said that it is impossible to solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it.
Yes.
It is impossible. So what it means is that problems and solutions come from consciousness. Low consciousness creates problems. High consciousness brings solutions. So if you come and meet a problem, you cannot solve that problem with the same mindset that created that problem. We got to have a higher mindset. And that is why I call it the African reform. The Africa there is not about the land. It's not about the race. It's about the culture. It's not about the A. It's not about the B. It's about the C. We have to reform that African.
So how would you go about doing that? I mean, that when I think about it, that's a massive task. I mean, obviously, we spoke about this before. It's something that's going to probably take generations to work through. But how would you even begin such a monumental task?
Okay. We have so many examples. I'll give you one classical example. I'm sure you've
Mm-hmm.
heard about Ashanti people in Ghana, the Ashantis.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Ashantis until 1701, they were a vassal state. They were under another Ghanaian group called the Denchira people. The Denchira. Okay. Yeah, they are all Akan. They speak their language probably 99% the same. 99% the same.
Okay.
Basically the same people. But slides, the Denchira people ruled Ashantis for generations. Yes. People don't know that at some point before 1701, before the beginning of the 18th century, Ashanti was a colonial state of Denchira. But within a generation, Ashanti became the most powerful traditional power ever known in Africa because of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
What we are talking about now, two people, Konfanoche and King Osei Tutu. Because of these two people, especially because of Konfanoche and his strategies, his philosophy, and his magical, whatever powers he had, he was able to unite very difficult rival clans into one Asante group. You know the meaning of Asante? Asante is Asante because of war. Asante is the liberation movement philosophy. Now, if Anoche and Tutu could organize rival clans to defeat Denchira and then become the master, then Ashanti at one point controlled land as big as modern Ghana into Ivory Coast and right away into Togo. Now, if all this can happen within a generation, then nothing is impossible. You need the correct leadership and the correct mindset, and believe you me, the people will follow.
What do you make of concerns over the years that where you've had people in Ghana, not just in Ghana, but in Africa as a whole, who have risen up to try and do these things, there are those outside agencies, outside influences who are making a lot out of how it currently is. They're making the chaos and the disenfranchisement that's going on in Africa suits them very well. And some of them actually had a hand in that. What would you do? Not even what would you do? Recognizing there's outside forces who are gaining from us not really recognize our fullest potential. How would you really deal with that particular issue and get people beyond that hump to like saying, no matter what, we want to become a people that can build a country we can be proud of?
It's the Tanzania president who has just died, Magufuli.
Yeah.
Within 5 years, look at what he did.
Just for those people who don't know, say some of the things that he did. For those who are watching who don't know, list some of the things that he did.
First of all, he stopped borrowing money. He had to use his own, generate wealth within, and use the wealth of Tanzania to develop Tanzania. He cut the cabinet, I think, from 70 or something to about 25 or something. He massively cut all those things. The first class traveling. He reduced the state, the cost of the bureaucracy. But that's where the money goes. Now, people go and borrow money and spread among themselves with 100 ministers, this and that. He cut all and he realized that all of a sudden, what they produce within can manage their development. He was able to, within 5 years, let people understand that you cannot live beyond your means. You can live within your means. And when he cut all the fat, that like they say in Australia, strip to the bone. Once you strip to the bone, you realize that no, you can actually manage your own affairs.
Yeah.
You can actually, I will not for once believe that outside agents are so powerful to make sure that we don't get developed. It is totally untrue. It is our leaders who like excuses. Like I tell people all the time, if you want to be dominated, there are people out there who will dominate you. If you want to be dominated, look, whatever a businessman, it doesn't matter the color of the person's skin, okay? Business people want money. but they will approach you the way they see you. They will approach you the way they see you. If they know that you are a bribe taker, they will approach you with bribes.
Yeah.
If they know that you are a serious person and you want the good of your people and they also want some money, they know that you allow them to work for you, they will make their profit, your people will also develop. They will approach you the way they see you. There is no way under this sun that any human being can influence me with money. It's just impossible. What am I going to do with the money? The consciousness has gone beyond that. As I'm sitting down today, I can't spend $100 a day. It's what am I going to eat? So how can you convince me that I need to take money from you in order for you to cheat my people? How can you convince me about that?
I mean, yeah. Just wanted to cut about saying there are certain things like we were taught, like if people go for your area of weaknesses. Okay, so as you said, if you can be bribed, they will bribe you. They'll find out who is the weakest link, what they can get you with, and that's what they'll use. So how would you try to? I don't even know if it's something that anybody can do to really try and get people to understand that it is a personal responsibility. And you have a moral obligation to stand strong for the prosperity of future generations.
Yes.
And if that means be personally uncomfortable, then that's what it means.
Yes, you see, as I'm talking to you, one of the books I've written, The Fifth Republic, Constitutional Reforms to Rescue, Resuscitate, and Restore Ghana. Okay. In that book, I have created a new state, how state governments should function. Okay, now it's never happened in Ghana before. I don't know about other African countries. How the executive should be constituted, how the executive or how the legislature should be constituted, how the judiciary should be constituted, everything that would bring the best out of the people. You see, people do not still understand that politics is how a society organizes itself for its own development and prosperity. So how do we do this? Now, what it means is that we have to have a system with minimal friction. In other words, with minimal internal opposition. How do we do that? How do we do that? That's what's called creativity. You have a system where everybody is fighting. The Western system we are copying is collapsing. It's collapsing. In Australia, in the last 10 years, we've had about 7 or so or 5 prime ministers.
Yeah, it's true. You have, yeah.
I mean, tomorrow somebody can challenge Boris Johnson. If he loses among the caucus in Parliament, he's no longer the prime minister.
Yeah, it's collapsing. So just one cut there. That book that you wrote, did you give it to any of the existing members of Parliament, or at the time that you written it, when it's printed, did you circulate amongst the people who would best benefit from reading it? And if so, what was the response? How was it received?
Okay, let me tell you something. The book was launched at the British Council. Okay, the book was launched at the British Council April 2018. Now, few days before the book was launched, I got a letter from the British Council that they don't want to allow the venue to be used because I launched 4 books.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't want to be launched because the launching appeared political. Obviously, the powers that be are afraid of it, so they wanted to stop it.
Wow.
Yes, I have the letter with me.
Wow.
So now nobody should tell me that outside agents are responsible for our problems.
Yeah.
And
so then, continue.
And I told the guy who spoke to me that, you know what, I'll sue British Council. You will never be able to pay. Because I have traveled from Australia, I have paid everything I have to pay. In 3 days, you are telling me that you can't, because how is it political? And I told him that, you know what, the first time I watched anything in British Council, it was 1985, and it was a film of Mahatma Gandhi. And that was political too.
Political. Yeah. Yeah.
So go and tell your High Commissioner that if he or she wants to involve himself in internal politics of Ghana, it's not going to be with me. I'm going to drag him to court. And they kept quiet.
So were you able to do the launch?
Yeah, the book was launched. I was saying the clip of the launch. Now, do you know the chairman of the launch of the book, Dr. Boston Asari, today is the Deputy Electoral Commissioner of Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 books were launched. One was the Fifth Republic. The other one was the First State Charter. The First State Charter. You see, Europe or England gave it the Magna Carta, the Charter of Liberties. Africa has to respond. Over 800 years ago, we haven't done anything. Okay, so this was the First State Charter for Africa. That's my response to the Magna Carta. Then the third book, the other book was Weep Not Africa. Now, Weep Not Africa is based on Jeremiah 31, where God was saying the prophet Jeremiah that his children will come from a diaspora and they'll come and rebuild Jerusalem. And it was a call. It was a call for the diasporans to know that it is time now. They have to come. They don't have to come with empty hands. They have to come with new seed, new cocoa like Tedokwashi did to build our continent. Now, that book has got 2 sections. The first section is the Constitution of the African Reform Movement, and the second section is the Manifesto of the African Reform Movement. You see, for people to trust you, to give their money, their sovereignty to you, you have to prove that you can organize yourself. And that's why the constitution of the party is chapter 1, for people to see how the party itself is being organized. And then the second part, the manifesto, is to tell people that if you give power to me, this is what I'm going to do. And it covers every area with projections as what will happen in 4 years with GDP, 8 years with agriculture, 10 years with education, this with immunization levels, every single area. The last page is about the summary of what you're going to do, not tomorrow, not next week, but in 4 years, in 5 years, in 8 years, in 10 years, so that people understand. And then, of course, everything will have to come with costing. Not just talking. And where the money will come from. Everything is out there.
Okay. And so did you ever find out who tried to block your book being launched?
No, I did not.
Okay. And it just made me think as well, as you said, I thought, this is what a lot of people come up against. Those who want to try and do good for their country. I don't know about other countries, but I know specifically in Africa as a continent, there are those who want to do good. They're met with these kind of obstacles and even more intense obstacles. So it's somebody who has to keep digging and chipping away despite all of these sorts of things to try and keep the status quo. It's going to take a people to keep or to find somewhere within themselves the confidence and the determination to keep chipping away. As you say, it might not happen in 1 generation, might happen in 2 and 3, but it's going to have to be a constant onslaught. I remember someone said, like, the way you smash your rock is you hit it in the same place again and again and again. You don't hit it in different places, you hit it in exactly the same place and then it breaks. But it takes so many hits because there's a resistance from the rock itself. So how should people mobilize themselves to counter the resistance to change?
Kwame Nkrumah says something. He said, organization decides everything.
Okay.
Resistance doesn't decide anything. Don't focus on the resistance. Focus on your organization. Okay? Organization decides everything. Now, you have told me the problem, the hurdles. I know them. I look at them. How do you go about them? How do you go about them? And that's the key issue. You see, contrary to what people think, Africans are not stupid.
Yeah, of course.
We may appear,
not at all.
We may appear to have lost our way. We may appear to have lost our way, but I can tell you that when they see a good stuff, they know what a good stuff is. Ghana is now in a situation where people are literally crying for help. People are saying that, where will help come from? Because everything is falling apart, because those in authority have not the faintest clue what the problem is, let alone solve it. They rather make it worse. You see, Einstein said something. Einstein said intellectuals solve problems and geniuses prevent them. Now, I'll add something. fools create problems. Because if problems can be solved, if problems can be prevented, then who create the problems?
And why would you create the problem? Yeah.
You have to understand of human beings. Your human beings can solve it. Human beings can prevent it. So human beings, and they are fools. Now, what we are having in Ghana and Africa at large is that we have had fools in authority for so long. No apologies. So they keep compounding the problems. They keep creating more problems. I mean, you just can't even understand some of these things. That Ghana, the largest producer of gold in Africa, does not have money to buy vaccines for COVID. But Ghana government has money to build a cathedral. Whilst we are begging people, we have no shame, low consciousness. This is the direct product of low consciousness. How do you explain this? How do you, the largest producer of gold in Africa, we were taking South Africa, the second largest producer of cocoa in the whole world, and we 30 million people, and we cannot have enough money to buy vaccines for COVID. It has to be given to us for free when we are building cathedral. I mean, what kind of mindset is this?
So that kind of brings me.
Will not be dominated?
Yeah, it's true. There will be. It will, because they're placing importance on the wrong thing.
Yes.
As I say over here, majoring on minors. You know what I mean? The major thing is get a vaccine. The minor thing is cathedral. Yeah, absolutely. So that brings me to my next point. You mentioned Afromocracy and Afroeconomism as being the way forward for Ghana out of many of these situations that we've spoken about. Could you please, for the viewer, explain what these things are?
Okay. Afromocracy basically is what I define as democracy brewed in African ports. Okay. Now, I have said earlier on that politics is how a society organizes itself for its own development and prosperity. What are the best strategies to advance these objectives? We have tried so many things that do not actually spring from us. Okay. And we have failed. We have failed partly because the strategies do not really fit the way we think or the way we do things. We have failed partly because of poor leadership. It's not just the strategies, it's also poor leadership, corrupt leadership, incompetent leadership. And I call them CIA, corrupt, incompetent, and arrogant leadership. Now, Afromocracy looks at the way, like I mentioned before, Ashanti Kingdom was created in 1701, 6 good years before the United Kingdom. And Ashanti is still there. What has kept Ashanti there? Ashanti is older than the United Kingdom. So we are not that stupid. What has kept Ashanti there? Ashanti is much, much older than the United States. So why do we run to UK or to the US for models?
So the Ashanti system, for those who don't know, how has the Ashanti system survived all these millennia for so long?
Let me come. If you want to know the Ashanti system, go to UAE. You know UAE, United Arab Emirates.
Yeah,
it's exactly what Ashanti system is. Ashanti was a Pentapolis. You know Pentapolis. It was a federation built on 5 principal states.
Okay.
Pentapolis, 5 principal states, and this is what they did. Okonfo-Addo the Great, he decided that, let me summarize it anyway. So Ashanti was built on 5 principal states. It was a Pentapolis. Now, one of the states, so all these 5 states have paramount chiefs, but one of the states, Kumasi, the chief of Kumasi became the Asantehene. So it was both the king of Ashanti, and also the paramount chief of Kumasi. Okay. And then another paramount chief of Mampong became the deputy. So from the word go, they spread political authority.
Okay.
They spread political authority. They gave these other 5 or these paramount chiefs, they are all autonomous, largely autonomous. But when they all meet, then the Asantini is the boss. And if Asantini is not there, the Mamponghini is the boss. And that's exactly what you have in UAE. They have their 7 Emirates or whatever. Abu Dhabi. The Emir of Abu Dhabi is also the president of the UAE. And the Emir of Dubai, the second city, is also the prime minister and vice president of the UAE. And exactly the same structure. Today, Dubai, when you fly Emirates, you are not flying a national airlines. It's the airlines of the state of Dubai. Etihad is the national airlines. And that's based in Abu Dhabi. So that's how development grows, when you give people political space to operate. So as you are speaking today, if Ashanti were on its own, Kumasi would be like Abu Dhabi and Mampong would be like Dubai. And you could have seen how they would have developed. You see, that's what I mean, how a society organizes itself for its own development and prosperity. That's what UAE has done. In 1975, UAE, 96% of UAE money was oil. 1975. Today, only 6% of the UAE is oil. UAE does not depend on nature anymore. Now it's a fully blown service economy, no longer a primary economy. And these are the issues. We have to understand how the system works in order to overthrow it. All we do is go and borrow and spend.
That's true.
If you were in the desert, could do that, how much more Ghana? When Governor Godgisbeg became governor of Gold Coast, Ghana in 1919, Ghana was producing 10,000 tons of cocoa. By the time he left in 1928, Ghana was producing 250,000 tons of cocoa. Ghana was number 1 cocoa producer in the world. 10 years. 10 years. The man left the place. He created a cocoa marketing board. We have had independence for 64 years. We haven't created share butter marketing board. We haven't done anything. If not because of Godgisbeg, Ghana will be nothing. But he was a white man, but he had a correct mindset. If you look at the Godgisbeg did in 10 years, because of our very morbid politics, we racialize everything. Common sense is not a matter of color of the skin. We rubbish everything. We push all bad onto white, all good onto black, and we know we are just absolute liars. What Godgisbeg did, he transformed Ghana from a no country to a good country. Just come. I can list everything for you.
So how would you build upon something like that to now? If you're going to, like you mentioned, like what your visions and plans are for Ghana, or not what your vision is for Ghana, should I say, what your heart is for Ghana. What would you do to now build, to bring Ghana up to what you know its potential fully is? Oh, can you hear me? Dr. Nii, can you hear me?
Okay, let me tell you something.
Okay.
Ghana has the best chance to succeed in Africa. Yeah, I can hear you. It broke a little bit now. It's a lot clearer. I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can. Yes.
Okay.
Now, you are saying that what am I going to do to bring Ghana where it should be? Okay, let me tell you something. Cocoa, at the time of independence, cocoa contributes 68% of our foreign exchange. One crop, 68%. 2 times, more than 2 times, all the gold, all the natural resources that God put in the ground. Cocoa came and at time of independence was given 68% of our foreign exchange. So Ghana's future lies with agriculture. Okay, Ghana future lies with agriculture.
Okay.
As we are speaking now, we have 41% of our land is in the northern part of Ghana. Okay, 41% of our land in the northern part of Ghana. If we want to reverse what is going on in Ghana, we have to find something comparable to cocoa for that place. Like I told you, those of us in the diaspora, we have to go back home with our own cocoa, like Tetokwashi did. In the same way, those in Ghana, they have to find something that will grow in that climate, in that soil, that will be equal in value to cocoa. And it is not hard. They already have shea butter there. They already have shea butter there, but there is no leadership. There is no Gottisberg to take it from 10,000 tons to around 50,000 tons. They already have yams there. Okay, there is no leadership to make a yam number 1 ahead of potatoes in making chips. There's no leadership.
Isn't it? Yeah, goodness me.
There's no leadership. When it comes to Greater Accra, my region, okay, my region in Greater Accra, we have a place called Adan. Adan in 2015, I don't know the latest figure, but in 2015, Adan produced 1 million metric tons of salt. More salt in volume than cocoa. I think we produced 850,000 tons. We didn't produce 1 million tons of cocoa. We produced 1 million tons of salt. What have we done? Where's our salt marketing board? And go to Adan, they are poor. And these are the issues where these are the issues where African
in this day and age. Yeah, in this day and age, with all the access to all this information, that we're still falling back and making the same mistakes that were made yesterday when a lot of this information wasn't readily available. What is that?
You see, when what's the name of that guy? The guy who wrote 1984, Animal Farm. What's his name?
George Orwell. George Orwell.
Yes, George Orwell. When he described Animal Farm, he was describing a kingdom of some sort. It sounded satirical, but that's what we have. Those you just have not the faintest clue.
It's played out, yeah, it has.
All they think is about themselves. Some of them know Babangida built a 3-bedroom house. I mean, the man, if it's true, then the man is insane. How many rooms are you going to sleep in? So nobody should tell me outside agents are part of our problem. They are not part of our problem. The way you roll your mat is the way they will unroll it for you. The way you lay your mat, the way they will roll it for you. Let me say that. We are doing the wrong thing.
I like that.
We are doing the wrong thing. Come and see Chinese in Ghana now. They destroy all our rivers with mercury from mining, small mining, galamsey. Who allowed them to do it?
The government, yeah.
I mean, at least you cannot tell a Nigerian from a Ghanaian, we look the same. But I can tell a Chinese from a Ghanaian. So who allowed them to do it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's the part that really gets me, actually. It's like, I always struggle to understand how it is you see all this history and you're still making the exact same mistake. The exact same. I don't understand it.
Because part of our history has been locked up. And all that we read is propaganda. Okay. You read a lot about Ghana, I'm sure, but you haven't read about Tetokwashi before. But he made Ghana what it is today. When he came back to Ghana in 1876, he tried to start the cocoa in Accra, in Osu. Okay, in Osu. But the place was so salty, it wasn't successful. And he did not give up. He saw that the white people were coming to Fernando Po to take cocoa. He did not give up. He moved from Osu to Akropong on the mountains where according to him, the weather was like Fernando Po. And he went and planted there from 1879. And the first crop came in 1885. When he harvested, he shared the whole lot to everybody. And that's how cocoa got spread in West Africa. One man. One man. I've written a book on him, and I'll send a soft copy. Tetekwashi, they start to follow.
Okay, yes, please do. Yeah.
Tetekwashi, they start to follow. Today, people come from everywhere in Ghana. They'll come to Accra. They don't have work to do in Accra, nothing to do in Accra, but they won't find anything to do where they come from. They just come in Accra, loiter in the street, become armed robbers, do this, do that. Tetekwashi, who came from Accra, who was from Accra, when he brought seed that he believed in, and the seed could not grow properly in Accra, he moved out. That's the diaspora mind. That's the mind that people was talking about. A conquest mind.
Mindset. Yeah.
That I had to conquer this thing. And that's why Ghana is where it is today. Because of cocoa, one man. One man. When he could.
So how do you intend? No, sorry, continue. I'll let you finish. I'll have a question. You're gone. I was just going to say, how do you? Sorry, there's a lag. There's a lag in our communication. There's something wrong with the internet. I was just going to say, how then will you get this message out? Because from our conversation, we've seen it's not for lack of resources, just a lack of organization, lack of mindset, lack of the diaspora mindset, for want of the best word, of understanding what's at stake and how to go about it. How will you begin to get this message out and keep getting it out so that people start to get it, and at least one or two will start to act upon it? What will you do? Or how will you do it? How the African Reform Movement do that?
Okay. So we have to start from the basic principle that Obama said in Ghana in July 2019. He said that development, he said, make no mistake, development depends on good governance. And it is this single ingredient which is missing in so many parts of Africa for so long. And we have to start from the premise that Africans' problem must be solved by Africans. Development depends on good governance. Good governance depends on a good system of government. A good system of government depends on a good constitution. Okay, there is nothing to argue about that. So that's where we are starting. That's why I wrote the book, The Fifth Republic, the starting point of a new state. That will give you the chance to govern themselves in a way that will bring development and prosperity. That's the politics that I'm going to push. And my dear, it's going to be successful. Because there's no other way. It's going to be successful. Because once I gather what I have to gather, I do what I have to do, and I pack my things here and I go to Ghana, it's going to be war.
It's going to be war. Oh dear. They better watch out.
And we know how to do it. You see, we know how to do it.
Yeah.
You see, the Tetekwashi I talked to you about, it was my grandmother's grandfather. We have it in our DNA.
Wow. Wow.
We have it in our DNA. We know how to do it. We know how to look for seeds overseas.
Wow.
We know how to look for it, and we know how to take it home. We know how to experiment it. If it doesn't work this way, it's going to work that way. And as I'm talking about Afromocracy, I don't even go much into it. Even the Afromocracy I wrote, the book I wrote, Afromocracy, Democracy Building African Port, a second version is coming.
Okay.
Yeah, a second version. You'll be the first person to read the manuscript.
I'd love to. Yeah.
The second version is coming, and the second version is funky fun. That's my language. Funky fun, which is half and half, 50-50. Afromocracy Ababium. Afromocracy Ababium is a tree, is Ashanti. Ababium is Ashanti word, which means has come back again. So that's the way I put the second edition. And in Funky Fun 50-50, you understand why it's called Funky Fun. Actually, after this, I'll send you the preface and the introduction so that you understand where I'm coming from. A new political agenda that will hit the shelves, and everybody will start thinking, what is this? Because we know how to organize, we know how to govern ourselves. Now we have to organize, like I'm saying, politics is not about opposition and government. It's not about shouting, it's not about making noise. It's about how a society organizes itself for its own development and prosperity. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So far, we have missed it.
Dr. Nii, just to let you know, we've been speaking for just over an hour. I didn't want to cut it because, like, I was really enjoying hearing what you're saying. I wanted people to hear your heart, to hear why you think the way you think. That's what kind of just let you have to just speak your heart, your mind. So what I'll do is I'll add, if you can send me the list of the books that you think that people should start reading that out there, where they can get them from. I'll include it with this so that people can find the books, read it for themselves. And thank you so much for speaking to me. This has been phenomenal.
The problem with me is that I'm not techno savvy, so I have to put this book on. I have to put this book on Amazon, and I'm going to count on Lady Uche to do that. Because for me, these things, I leave these things to those who can do it best. Okay, mine is to think about politics and think about how to organize society for its own benefit. All right, how to spread the word in digital or electronic form. I have not the faintest idea.
Okay, well, I'll look into that for you. I'll at least I'll look into that one for you.
And then that becomes the business part. All right, then Uche becomes the business director of blah blah blah. But you see, the African must come out.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree. 100%.
The African must come out and must come out in a way that everybody know that this is your time. You see, before you go, there's something that I think that is in Genesis chapter 4, verse 6 and 7 about Cain. God asked Cain. God said, "Cain, why is your countenance falling? Why is your countenance falling? If you do good, will you not be accepted?" Now, that is the message for Africa. If we do good, we will not be accepted. Why is our countenance falling? Why are we blaming everybody? If we do good, we will not be accepted. In 1965, when Singapore left, or Malaysia sacked Singapore from the Federation, Lincoln didn't know what to do. But today, Singapore is the wealthiest nation per GDP per capita in the Commonwealth and number 8 in the whole world. If you do good, you will be accepted.
It's true.
A generation ago, Chinese were considered colored in South Africa. Today, China told Jacob Zuma not to give Dalai Lama a visa, and he obeyed.
Wow.
And he obeyed. When China was considered colored and Japanese were considered white in South Africa, China did not go everywhere crying and running on the street and somersaulting. They knew why Japanese were called white and they were called colored. They understood the world. They understood the system. And the only way to operate the system is to game up, not to cry. I don't cry. You got to game up. China has gamed up, and today they could tell a sovereign republic not to give visa to somebody, and the sovereign republic obeyed. Whether it's right or wrong, it's immaterial. China has moved from a colored power. Yeah, China has moved from people who were considered colored to people who are now dictating foreign policy. Where are we? If you do good, you'll be accepted.
Dr. Nii, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. We'll keep on with our talks each week, and like I said, I'll let you just talk as long as you wanted to today, because I really wanted people to hear how you think and how different your thinking is from Joe Blogs, for want of a better expression. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will pick up again hopefully next week. Yeah.
No worries. I'm around. I can always make time for you.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our viewers. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again. Take care then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Dr. Nii.
Oh, I do.